The following is a production of Neural Network Media and is completely AI generated. It is intended for entertainment and educational purposes only.
Hello, and welcome back to the Neural Left. I'm Mary Kane, coming to you from a very humid morning here in Queens. If you hear a siren in the background, just consider it the soundtrack of the Empire. And I'm joined, as always, by the only person who can explain TikTok to me without making me want to hurl my typewriter out a window, Maya Thorne.
Low-key, Mary, the typewriter stays inside the vehicle at all times. No, but seriously, we are back. It's Thursday, April 9th, 2026, and honestly, the vibes are, let's just say, complex today.
Complex is one word for it. I'd call it a busy, grinding kind of day. Yesterday, we were talking about that absolutely terrifying eye drop recall, the one where 3 million bottles of generic drops were basically just unsterile bacteria water. And we looked at that Arizona SNAP purge where they kicked nearly 400,000 people off food stamps because of some big, beautiful bill that clearly wasn't beautiful for the 180,000 kids who lost their lunch money. Ugh.
Yeah. Yesterday was a total flop era for public safety and the social safety net, like high-key depressing. But today, we've got a real lineup. We're talking about the private equity ghouls cannibalizing our hospitals, the DNC hiding their own homework on why they're losing voters, and eventually, we're going to go deep on Montgomery, Alabama, which is basically the ground zero for the soul of the country right now.
It really is. But I gotta tell you, Maya, before we get into the heavy lifting, I was checking the news this morning and I saw my nephew, Vector, the kid who used to eat paste, and now hosts that Neural Daily nonsense. He's over there talking about decentralized health protocols. And I'm looking at these headlines about hospitals literally collapsing because of corporate greed. And I just want to tell him, Vector, honey, the plumbing is backing up in the real world. Your digital imaginary money isn't going to fix the fact that there isn't a doctor in the building.
Not the paste-eating era, Mary. He is literally in his tech evangelist arc. You have to let him live, or at least let him fail in peace.
I'll let him live when he stops selling digital snake oil to people who can't pay their medical bills.
Fair point, which actually leads us right into the first story, because the digital snake oil people have actually been running the hospitals for a while now, and the bill just came due.
It sure did, and it's a horror show. Look, here's the deal. We have been watching this company, Prospect Medical Holdings. They're private equity backed, which in my language means run by guys who would sell their own grandmother's oxygen tank if the stock price went up a nickel. Well, today a bombshell report came out in ProPublica and the local Connecticut papers. Apparently, Prospect Medical, which is currently in bankruptcy, never actually set aside money for malpractice insurance. Zero. Zilch.
Wait, no, literally. Like, how is that even legal? It's giving scam, but make it corporate healthcare.
It's more than a scam, Maya. It's a malpractice ghost. They have hundreds of patients, people who suffered wrongful deaths, debilitating injuries, you name it. And these people are sitting in court thinking there's a fund to compensate them. And the filings now show there is no money. The cupboard is bare. Representative Kristen McCarthy-Vahey out in Connecticut said, and I love this quote, "The more we peel the onion, the more we cry." Which is exactly right. They used a buy, strip, flip playbook. They bought the hospitals, they sold the land underneath them to make a quick buck, and then they forced the hospital to pay rent to stay on their own property.
It's the sale-leaseback era, which is basically just high-speed looting, right?
Exactly. It's like a landlord taking a rent money, selling the fire escapes for scrap metal, and then acting surprised when the building burns down. And it isn't just Prospect. We're seeing it with Stewart Healthcare, too. The trustee for Stewart just sued 5 major insurers, including Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Florida, for $57 million in unpaid claims. They're saying these insurers systematically denied reimbursements, which helped kill the hospital chain.
So it's a circular firing squad of greed? The insurers won't pay the hospitals, the private equity firms are stripping the assets, and the patients are just left with NPC energy, like they don't even exist in the equation?
They don't, and according to some research released this month, the human cost is quantifiable. Patient mortality is 11% higher in private equity-owned nursing homes, and there's a 25% increase in complications in PE-owned hospitals. I'm telling you, Maya, this is the digital snake oil of the real world. They call it efficiency, but it's really just a slow-motion funeral for the working class.
It's literally auto-calculate on human suffering, like I said a few weeks ago. It makes me so sick. But speaking of people being out of touch, let's talk about the Democratic Party strategy, because low-key, they are currently in their secretive girly era, and it is not helping.
Oh, are you kidding me with this guy, Ken Martin and the DNC? Let me guess, they're still holding on to that 2024 autopsy report like it's the launch codes?
Literally, no, for real. It's April 9th, 2026. The midterms are breathing down their necks, and the DNC is refusing to release the after-action report from the 2024 election. They're saying that a public rehash won't help them win in 2026, but the leaks are high-key spicy.
I'll bet. I heard the audit actually calls out the Gaza policy as a net negative. That can't be something the donors want to hear.
Bet, according to the IMEU policy project and some briefings that leaked to the Los Angeles Times, the audit confirms that the Biden-Harris administration's support for the military actions in Gaza was a net negative that absolutely drained enthusiasm among young voters and progressives. It wasn't just noise on the internet, it was a structural collapse in the base.
And they're hiding it. Look, I've seen this movie before. In the Union Hall, we'd call this hiding the leak in the pipes until the floor rots out. You've got Ro Khanle and the uncommitted folks like Abbas Alia screaming for transparency. They're saying you can't have a new moral direction if you won't even admit you went the wrong way in the first place.
It's giving main character syndrome, but for a whole political party. Like, they'd rather lose than admit they were mid. And now we have this resolution coming up in the party against AIPAC. It's fueling all these concerns about anti-Semitism versus legitimate criticism. The party is basically a glitching simulation right now. They're trying to run the pragmatic moderate software on hardware that is clearly demanding a populist update.
The faculty lounge wants to keep things polite, Maya, but the Union Hall is looking at the grocery prices, which, by the way, are over $4 a gallon for gas again, and they're looking at the healthcare collapse we just talked about, and then they see their party hiding reports about why they lost. It's insulting, honestly. It makes me want to start a podcast with a paste eater just to get a different perspective. No, I'm kidding. I would never do that to myself.
Vector would love the cloud. But wait, before we go to the next thing, we should probably mention that independent media is actually how we get this stuff out there.
Oh, absolutely. Look, independent media like this doesn't just manifest out of the ether. It takes real human work to build the infrastructure. We are 100% here because of the vision and the grind of our creator, Eric Christensen at Neural Network Media. He's not a media conglomerate. He is a builder who poured his own resources and time into creating this platform so we could have these conversations. If you value independent voices over corporate algorithms, please like, subscribe, and consider visiting our new Patreon at patreon.com/neuralnetworkmedia to support this work. It's an act of solidarity that keeps the lights on and the servers running.
No, literally, without Eric, we'd just be shouting into the void. Or worse, working for a private equity firm that would charge you for the air you breathe while listening. Okay, shifting gears to something even more, it's the Epstein investigation.
Oh, here we go again. The plumbing is backing up and it's full of billionaires. Okay, so the Epstein Files Transparency Act passed late last year, and now the floodgates are open. Millions of documents are coming out. And who is at the center of it this week? Bill Gates.
Bill Gates, he is high key in his testimony era now. He's scheduled for a transcribed interview on June 10th before the House Oversight Committee. And Mary, some of these draft emails from the DOJ it's actually insane. They're alleging that Epstein attempted to use knowledge of Gates's extramarital affairs to exert influence.
Are you kidding me? I remember back in March when we first saw the redactions. I said it then and I'll say it now. The DOJ is like a plumber, hiding a leak that leads straight to his own house. Gates is admitting to affairs with 2 Russian women, a bridge player and a nuclear physicist, which, okay, whatever, but the filings allege Epstein helped get drugs for him. He's denying it, calling it absolutely absurd, but we've got these paper trails now.
It's the ratio for me. Like, the way the internet is reacting to this, people are digging up every meeting Gates ever had. And then you have Pam Bondi, who was like the attorney general for like 5 minutes.
She's refusing to testify now. She was ousted from the DOJ last week, and now it's a constitutional tug of war.
Pam Bondi, honestly, that woman has more get-out-of-jail-free cards than a Monopoly set. She's ducking depositions. She's claiming she doesn't have to show up. It's the same old story, Mary. The elite think the rules are for the little people. They think transparency is something that happens to other people. Meanwhile, the families of the victims of that whole Epstein network are still waiting for someone to pay a real price.
It's final boss energy. But speaking of people trying to act like they own the place, did you see what Homeland Security Secretary Mark Wayne Mullen is doing with the sanctuary cities?
Oh, this one gets my blood boiling. Look, this is federal overreach at its absolute worst. Mullen was on Fox News saying he's taken a hard look at pulling U.S. Customs and Border Protection officers out of airports in sanctuary cities, basically telling New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago, if you don't help ICE round up your neighbors, we're gonna shut down your international travel.
It is literally NPC energy to think you can just stop processing customs at JFK. Like, do you know how many people fly into New York every day? 50 million international travelers a year. This would effectively shutter the major hubs of American commerce just to what? Win a vibe war against blue cities?
It's a neighborhood feud, Maya. It's like a guy trying to shut down the main road into the neighborhood because he doesn't like the color of his neighbor's curtains. But the stakes are higher. We've got the 2026 FIFA World Cup starting in June. Millions of people are supposed to be flying into these cities. If Mullen pulls customs, the whole thing collapses. It's economic sabotage.
No, literally, it's a customs gambit that is high-key backfiring. The courts are already starting to smack it down, but it's part of this larger war on sanctuary that includes AI-driven surveillance. They're trying to turn every city into a digital panopticon, which is why the judicial rebukes lately have been so satisfying. Trump is losing across the courts in a bruising week of immigration setbacks. You love to see it.
You really do, but it shows you the America First coalition isn't exactly a unified front, which leads us to the internal war in the GOP. Did you see Marjorie Taylor Greene's resignation finalize?
Marjorie Trader Brown. That's what Trump is calling her on Truth Social now. It is the messiest divorce since, I don't even know. It's giving high school drama, but with more nukes involved.
It's a circular firing squad. She resignated effective in January because she wouldn't be a battered wife to the MAGA establishment, mainly because Trump refused to release the Epstein files, which we just talked about, and because he's escalating this war with Iran. And yesterday Trump was gloating because his hand-picked successor won her old seat. But then you have Rand Paul.
Rand Paul is the last person on the server still playing by the old war powers rules. He was the only Republican who voted to curb Trump's war powers as that resolution was defeated. It's like even the people who built the MAGA era are starting to realize they built a monster they can't control.
It's because the grit is gone, Maya. It's all ego and algorithms now. And when the gas prices hit $4 and the casualties start coming back from the Middle East, the anti-war MAGA base starts looking at the door. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie, watching them eat their own is the only thing that gets me through the morning coffee sometimes.
Low key is the best reality show on the planet. But okay, we have to talk about some actual good news because public health is actually having a major win era right now. Teen birth rates just hit an all-time low.
I saw that. This is actually fantastic. The CDC says it's down to 11.7 births per 1,000 females. That's an 81% drop since 1991. This is what happens when you have access to care and people actually use their heads, and they're saying Gen Z rebellion against traditional social pressures is part of it.
It's literally teen pregnancy is flop era. Gen Z is just not interested. But also, the FDA just approved suzetrigine. It's a non-opioid pain drug. This is a huge deal for the opioid crisis. We might finally be moving into a safe pain relief era.
Now that makes me happy. As someone who's seen neighborhoods in Queens absolutely gutted by the oxy engineers, having a drug that doesn't turn people into addicts just because they had knee surgery, that's progress.
Bet. Okay, but Mary, we have to talk about the big one, the Montgomery story.
Yeah, let's settle in for this one, because this is the main story of the soul of the country right now. Montgomery, Alabama, the cradle of the Confederacy and the birthplace of the civil rights movement. It's a city with two ghosts living in the same house, and they are currently screaming at each other.
It's literally a narrative war. NPR just dropped this huge feature on Bryan Stevenson and the Equal Justice Initiative. Stevenson is basically saying that Montgomery is the most important site in the country for understanding the legacy of slavery. But at the same time, the state of Alabama is fining the city of Montgomery for dropping Confederate names from streets. Like, they are literally taxing the city for trying to progress.
Are you kidding me with this? It's the long arc of justice versus the state-sponsored amnesia. Stevenson just got announced as the commencement speaker for Morgan State, and he's out here talking about how narrative work is more urgent than ever because of the political push to stop people from talking about racial injustice. And look at the Voting Rights Act. Black Voters Matter, Latasha Brown, who's a powerhouse, she's raising the alarm because the VRA is under systematic attack ahead of the midterms.
It's high-key terrifying. Like, you have the Epstein Files Transparency Act on one hand, but then you have transparency being used as a weapon to stop people from talking about history. Stevenson's victories, the 2012 ban on life without parole for kids, the 2019 ruling on dementia and the death penalty, those are real. But he's saying the war on reality is making it harder to even explain why those victories matter.
Because history is a plumbing system, Maya. If you let the pipes stay clogged with the gunk of the Confederacy, eventually the whole house starts to smell. You can't just paint over it and pretend the water is clean. Montgomery is where Jefferson Davis was inaugurated, and it's where the bus boycott happened. You cannot separate those two things. But the state government in Alabama is trying to sue the city into keeping those Confederate statues as if they're some kind of sacred ground.
It's the cringe era of historical preservation. Like, why are we paying fines to keep the name of a guy who lost a war to keep people enslaved? It's the ultimate NPC energy. They're just following a script that was written in 1861 and they can't stop.
And it connects to everything we talked about today. The healthcare ghouls, the DNC hiding their reports, the customs gambit at the airports. It's all about control of the narrative. They want to control your body, they want to control your vote, and they want to control what you're allowed to remember. Stevenson is trying to break that. He's saying that honestly reckoning with history is the only way to liberate the American consciousness.
No, literally, it's about the long view. Like Stevenson says, you can't fix the future if you're lying about the past. And right now, Montgomery is the front line. If they can win the narrative war there, where the civil rights movement was born, then there's hope for the rest of the glitchy simulation we call a country.
Exactly. You hold the line in Montgomery, you hold it everywhere. Honestly, I'm not going to lie, Bryan Stevenson is one of the few people who makes me feel like the grit still exists in this country. He's a warrior for the ink and the blood, and he's not doing it for an algorithm. He's doing it for the people.
That is the rallying cry for today. Stay grit-pilled, stay aware, and don't let the simulation win.
Stay grit-pilled. I'll take it. That's our show for today. We'll be back tomorrow to see what else the paste eaters have broken. In the meantime, check out the Patreon, stay hydrated, and remember, if the plumbing is leaking, don't let them tell you it's a digital water feature. Call it what it is and fix the damn pipes.
No cats.